A man suddenly witnesses something shocking. An ex-con who just got out of prison is beating a woman. So he walks up to the house and deliberately rips down the Christmas decorations outside. The criminal comes out, confused, trying to see who did it. Just as he's about to lash out, the man beats him down hard. Looks like he's headed right back to prison. Next, Bud goes to a store with a colleague to buy alcohol. At that moment, a woman dressed in a black robe walks into the store. Bud is instantly drawn to her. As he gets closer, he notices her blonde hair. She looks just like a Hollywood movie star. He gathers his courage and approaches her, but the woman immediately sees through him and identifies him as a cop. Embarrassed, Bud can only leave awkwardly. After walking out of the store, he notices a woman in a car across the street with bandages on her nose, so he steps forward to ask about it. Unexpectedly, a man gets out of the car, cursing and trying to drive him away. But Bud doesn't tolerate that. He slams him against the car. He then finds a wallet on the man. His name is Buzz, a former police officer. After subduing Buzz, Bud tries to question him further, but the woman in black interrupts. She explains that the people in the car are all her friends. With no solid reason to hold them, Bud lets them go. After returning to the police station, his colleagues have arrested 6 Mexican suspects. On Christmas night, they assaulted 2 on-duty officers. Stensland storms in, furious, looking to take revenge. He ignores Exley's attempt to stop him.
What are you looking at? What are you looking at, man? Come on!
If he keeps going, something serious will definitely happen. So Bud steps in to stop him, but the suspects start talking trash, and the moment Bud tries to break it up, it turns into a full-on fight. Unfortunately, one suspect's blood splashes onto Jack's clothes, pulling him into the fight as well. The station turns into complete chaos, and a reporter happens to capture the entire scene. This fight leaves the chief extremely furious. At the time, the Los Angeles government had spent huge amounts of money on promotional campaigns to attract people to move there. To maintain stability, the police had arrested Mickey, the biggest crime boss in the area. They thought that would break the gang apart, but instead, the organization split internally. Mickey's right-hand man was assassinated, his drug dealers were silenced, and the drugs were taken by unknown killers. Just after dealing with the gang, the department faces new trouble. To give the public an explanation, the higher-ups want Stensland to take the blame, and they need Bud to testify. But Bud refuses immediately. He won't stab someone in the back. His stubbornness costs him his job. Later, the higher-ups approach Exley. He is willing to testify, but in exchange, he wants to become head of homicide. His father was a legendary cop, and he has always wanted to become a detective like him, but Dudley had always refused him because Exley refuses to plant evidence, refuses to beat suspects, and refuses to shoot fleeing criminals in the back. But this time is different. The boss agrees without hesitation. In addition, Exley recommends Jack, who works as a technical advisor on a TV show. If he doesn't cooperate, he'll lose that job. The method works. To protect Jack, the boss temporarily transfers him to Vice, planning to move him back later. That night, Dudley approaches Bud. He admires Bud's loyalty, so he secretly reinstates him and puts him under his command as an enforcer to deal with outside gangs. On his first day in Vice, Jack runs into a major case. He notices the symbol on a file looks familiar. It turns out Jack has been working with editor Sid, exposing celebrity scandals to make money. Sid gathers information, and Jack makes the arrests. He earns $50 each time and gets front-page headlines. That day, Jack arrests 2 minor celebrities using drugs and finds a business card at their place. He calls the number, but the other side is cautious. Realizing he's not calling for services, they hang up immediately. A few days later, Stensland is fired from the department. He runs into Exley. Seeing his former partner in such a state, Bud offers to buy him a drink, but he refuses. He says he's going to meet his girlfriend, unaware it will be the last time. That night, Exley, who is on duty, receives a call about a murder at the Night Owl Cafe. He immediately rushes to the scene. He finds the owner already dead, but the waitress is missing. Following the blood trail, he enters the restroom and sees bodies all over the floor. This shocks Exley, who is handling such a case for the first time, but the case is taken over by Dudley. Based on the evidence, there were 3 killers, each firing 5 shots. Unexpectedly, Stensland is among the dead. Later, a woman comes to identify a body, but strangely, she doesn't recognize her own daughter. In the end, a birthmark confirms the identity. She is indeed Susan. Bud realizes she is the same woman he saw earlier with the bandaged nose. Police also received reports that 3 young men were firing shotguns in a park. They were driving a maroon Mercury, and a newspaper vendor saw the car parked across from the cafe at 1 a.m. Dudley divides the police into 48 teams, with Exley in charge of the operation. Many officers are dissatisfied with this decision. After the meeting, Bud returns to the store from that night. Guided by the clerk, he arrives at a remote villa. The man living there is Patchett, who had been sitting next to Susan. He hires many beautiful women and surgically alters them to look like movie stars, then sends them out as escorts. That explains why Susan's mother couldn't recognize her. She had just undergone surgery. After that, Bud goes to the woman in black to ask about Susan. She says she doesn't know her well. They were only acquaintances. She tries to bribe Bud, but he refuses directly. She can tell Bud likes helping women, which makes her develop a strong interest in him. Before leaving, Bud asks to see her again. Meanwhile, Jack and Exley visit an informant. By offering to reduce his brother's sentence, they learn the driver's name is Ray. They then go to Ray's house. Just as they are about to rush in, they encounter other officers who find 3 shotguns in the car. The 4 of them storm inside. One officer almost fires in panic, but Exley stops him because he wants them alive. In the end, the suspects are easily captured. Ballistics confirm the bullets came from their shotguns. Dudley wants them to confess, which is exactly what Exley is good at. After interrogation, they obtain 2 important leads. First, the drugs came from a major dealer named Roland. Second, there is a surviving girl from the cafe. After that, the police go to where the girl is being held. Bud climbs over the wall and jumps into the yard. He pries open the door latch with a knife and slowly enters the bedroom, where a girl lies on the bed covered in blood. He then goes to the living room, where a man is still unaware. Bud shoots him dead with 1 shot. He then fires another shot at the door frame and places the gun in the man's hand. Although Bud does it professionally, Exley still sees through it. Bud tells him not to interfere, but Exley provokes him instead.
Stensland got what he deserved, and so will you.
Luckily, they are pulled apart by other officers, or things would have escalated again. At that moment, the station reports that the suspects have escaped. From their statements, Exley identifies the drug lab and leads a team to Victory Motel. At room 404, they break in and find the suspects indeed inside. Out of panic, Ray knocks over a beer bottle, and an officer immediately shoots him. Not wanting to lose the credit, Exley chases another suspect and catches him just before the elevator closes. His performance earns praise from everyone. To honor his bravery, the chief personally awards him a medal, but the case is far from over. A few days later, Jack arrived in Hollywood and happened to run into Sid, the editor. He planned to exploit the prosecutor's preference for men and use it to bring him down. The person assigned to carry out this setup was a struggling D-list actor whom Jack had previously arrested. After getting caught using drugs last time, the actor had been dropped by his agency and soon went bankrupt. Now, for just $100, he had no choice but to go along with it. This made Jack feel a deep sense of guilt. Sid told him to come along later that night to a motel to take photos. At the bar, Jack stared blankly at the money in his hand. It was his own actions that had ruined this kid's future. This time, he decided to do something about it. So he drove to the motel, hoping to save the kid before anything happened. But he was too late. The boy had already been killed. Meanwhile, Bud went to see the woman in black, and the 2 of them began to grow closer. During their conversation, she learned the real reason why Bud always felt compelled to help women. It turned out his father had been abusive. One day, his father tied him to a radiator, and he was forced to watch as his mother was beaten to death. From that moment on, Bud made up his mind to become a cop. At the same time, he began to suspect that there were still many unanswered questions in the Night Owl case, so he went to the records room to dig deeper. Bud noticed that there had been 2 coffee cups on the desk Stensland had used, which meant someone had been with him at the time. Thinking back to Stensland saying he was going to meet his girlfriend that night, it became clear Susan was his girlfriend. Bud then went to Susan's mother, and her identification confirmed it. Suddenly, Bud discovered a hidden door. Passing through it into the backyard, he finally found a body in the basement. From the victim's clothing, he pulled out a wallet. It belonged to Buzz, the bodyguard from the car the other day. At the same time, Exley visited the surviving girl in the hospital. She admitted that she had given false testimony because she wanted the men who assaulted her to die. At that moment, Exley realized that the boys they had arrested were not the real killers. Looking at his bravery medal, Exley felt conflicted, but he ultimately made up his mind. From the coroner, he learned that Bud was still investigating the case. So Exley also went to Susan's mother. Since he couldn't find anything to confirm the identity of the body, he had no choice but to send it back to the station. Then Exley approached Jack, asking him to help keep an eye on Bud, but Jack was drowning in guilt and refused without hesitation until Exley mentioned a name.
Rollo Tomasi.
It was the name he had given to his father's killer.
My father ran into him off duty, and he shot my father 6 times and got away clean. No one even knew who he was. I just made the name up to give him some personality.
What's your point?
Rollo Tomasi's the reason I became a cop. I wanted to catch the guys who thought they could get away with it. It was supposed to be about justice.
Seeing Exley's determination, Jack finally agreed to help. After that, he followed Bud to a bar where Bud met with Johnny, Patchett's personal bodyguard. It turned out that Buzz had recently gotten his hands on a large amount of drugs. By now, Bud had already figured things out, and he went to see the woman in black again. All of this was observed by Exley and Jack. In the end, the two concluded that the Night Owl murders were likely connected to Patchett. So they went to his mansion, but he kept his mouth shut, and they got nothing useful. At that moment, a message came over the radio. The identity of the body had been confirmed. The two split up. Jack returned to the station, while Exley headed to the woman in black's place. Back at the station, the coroner told Jack that the dead man was Buzz, the former cop. Immediately after, Jack went to the records room and reviewed everything about Buzz, then went to confront Dudley. Jack brought up an incident from 12 years ago. Buzz and Stensland had once interrogated Patchett because he had used Sid to take compromising photos of prominent figures. But due to lack of evidence, Patchett had been released, and Dudley had been the supervising officer at the time. To Jack's shock, Dudley suddenly shot him, but before dying, Jack managed to leave him with a trap. One Dudley didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, Exley went to see the woman in black. She deliberately provoked him, suggesting he wasn't as capable as Bud. As expected, Exley took the bait, unaware that Sid had secretly taken photos of the two in a compromising situation. The next day, Dudley asked Exley if he had ever heard the name Rollo Tomassi. Exley immediately became alert. He had only ever told that name to Jack. His reaction made Dudley suspicious. To eliminate any loose ends, Dudley called in Bud, planning to use him to get rid of Exley. The two were brought to a motel, where the bound man was none other than Sid, the editor, who possessed photos of police officers with prostitutes. Hearing this, Bud could no longer stay calm. He found the photos Sid had taken. The moment he saw them, his heart sank. He hadn't expected that he and Exley would become rivals in love. Furious, he stormed off. Meanwhile, Exley also learned the identity of the victim from the coroner and went to the records room to investigate. At that moment, Bud burst in, still furious, and before Exley could explain, he threw a punch. Exley seized the chance to grab Bud's gun, but Bud was completely blinded by rage. After venting his anger, Bud gradually calmed down, and the two finally exchanged information. It turned out that Dudley, Buzz, and Stensland had all been working together. Buzz had stolen 11 kilos of drugs, which led to Stensland killing him. Dudley then killed Stensland to recover the drugs. As for the Night Owl murders, the real killers were Dudley and his two men. If Jack and Bud hadn't intervened earlier, those boys would have taken the fall, and this was also connected to the death of the young actor Jack had been investigating. Sid had once used the actor to seduce the prosecutor, but if they wanted solid evidence, the two of them had to work together. So they went to the prosecutor, asking the DA's office to put Dudley and Patchett under 24-hour surveillance. But fearing his secret would be exposed, the prosecutor refused outright. Seeing no other option, Bud resorted to intimidation. Under pressure, the prosecutor confessed everything. After Mickey was arrested, Dudley and Patchett had tried to take over his territory because they had compromising material on him. The prosecutor had no choice but to cooperate. They then went to Patchett's house, only to find that he had already been silenced. At that moment, they realized the woman in black might be in danger, so they rushed to her place. But they were told she had already been taken. Exley found her at the station, badly beaten, yet she refused to say a word. Meanwhile, Bud went to the newspaper office to find Sid, only to discover that he had also been killed. Just then, a colleague told him that Exley wanted to meet him at a motel. When they arrived, they realized it was a trap, but instead of waiting to die, they fortified the room and prepared to fight back. After an intense shootout, they managed to take down all the attackers. Just when they thought it was over, Dudley suddenly appeared. Bud shoved Exley out of the way and took 2 bullets himself. As Dudley prepared to finish Exley, Bud stabbed him in the side with a knife, giving Exley the chance to grab a shotgun. Dudley remained calm. He had already called the police. He even reminded Exley to show his badge, so he wouldn't be mistaken for a suspect and shot on sight. He was certain Exley wouldn't shoot him in the back, but Exley pulled the trigger and shot him in the side. At last, the mastermind was brought down. Back at the station, Exley reported everything, including the Night Owl case and Dudley's plan to take over the criminal empire. Although the case was solved, the higher-ups were in a difficult position. If the truth came out, it would disgrace the entire LAPD, so they decided to turn Dudley into a hero. At that moment, Exley simply smiled. In the end, he became a hero of the LAPD and received another Medal of Valor because he now held their secrets, and they couldn't risk him exposing them. The woman in black arrived at the scene and acknowledged that Exley was a formidable man. Afterward, the two walked out of the station together. Bud had survived, and the tension between them finally eased. In the end, both men got what they wanted.